Welcome back to another episode of Cape Ann Today. This is the post 4th of July episode, and Stephen and Ethan are going to review what happened on Cape Ann this past weekend. Stephen, why don't you go first? Tell us about 4th of July in Manchester and Rockport.
Hi, Heather. Yeah, twofer on the 4th, actually the 3rd. I was covering both the Manchester parade, which is depicted in this front page photo right there,
Nice.
the Manchester by the Sea parade. And then after that, I went over to Rockport, covered the Rockport parade, talked to a lot of the parade entries. There's some really cool stuff. I'll just focus on Rockport. I mean, they were both great parades. The Rockport, the thing that really appealed to me in the Rockport parade was the precision lawn chair drill team. You're probably familiar with that. They are a serious in the sense that they're pretty choreographed, but they're having a good time. I'll talk to the leader of the group, and he said that was basically what it was all about. Being silly was part of the fun, and they were apparently well received. Lots of fire engines, a lot of new fire engines, a lot of old fire engines, including the forest fire engine that I believe has been in service since 1941, and it's black. It's painted black, the original color. I didn't realize this, unlike most fire engines that are red, because that was the only color available back in 1941. So it stays true to its history and heritage.
So is this a vintage fire?
It's a vintage fire apparatus, but it's still used. They just last April, I was talking to one of the firefighters from the Rockport Fire Department. They used it in the forest fire that went on for days and days and days in Rockport. They put it down, they would come back, but it's still working and still going ahead. Over in Manchester, they had a display. This one is not used anymore, but it's on display in the historical museum. I forget the name of the museum, but it's a really ancient fire apparatus, and it was for the first time in at least 30 years. It was taken out of the museum, put up on a flatbed truck, and carted through the parade. So that was pretty cool.
What were the crowds like in each town?
Crowds are great. They're really, really busy. Let's see, in Manchester, yeah, you just basically people out on lawn chairs, strolling around. My experience was, trying to get out of the town of Rockport. I actually I got to the end of the parade, which took forever. And I figured, the parade the roads would be accessible or able to be driven on, but there were so many people just strolling around, talking, socializing. It was nice to see. Then of course the bonfire at night, that was a pretty hot thing.
Did you stay for the bonfire? I know the Gloucester Times.
I did not.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
So anyway, those the July 4th celebrations. I also did a story a couple of days ago. The Rockport school superintendent, Dr. Mark Franco, he has been given a 2.5% pay increase. So his salary, they really like him. The salary is now $171,000. But that's good. Also, a story that I'm working on right now, I covered the meeting of the select board in Manchester. The Manchester Water Task Force, they are conducting a study, a survey, a project really, that will eventually result in new meters for all water users. And they also want to, nothing definite, but they want to possibly dig some new wells in town to increase their water supply. So that's pretty much it news-wise.
Great. All right, Ethan, do you want to tell us what happened in Gloucester over the 4th of July weekend? How did we celebrate?
Boy, the Fishtown Horribles parade was back bigger than ever. I don't have any history with Gloucester covering the parades. Last year, I don't think it was as robust, coming out of COVID.
Hmm.
But this year, I have never in my life seen a parade like it, where so many floats, so much enthusiasm. We stood right at the corner of the high school exit on Centennial Avenue, watched the whole parade go through. My wife came up with my daughter, and it was just there was snakes in that parade, right? There was snakes. There was the Oscar Mayer mobile. I
What
met
was
up
the
with
funniest one?
what?
What was the funniest one from your point of view?
I don't know. They're all the sea serpent one was pretty funny. It looked like a seal though. It was one that was a nice sort of like sculpted sea serpent. I didn't know that Gloucester had a sea serpent. I knew
Yeah,
Marblehead has a sea serpent. Gloucester's got a sea serpent. They all got a sea
Marblehead
serpent.
has a sea serpent. I didn't know that.
Marblehead has a sea serpent. Yes, it does.
Maybe they're related.
He just swim around. Anyway, so yeah, so it was really good. It was the Aleppo Shriners, the Shriners drifters almost took me out while trying to cross the street on Centennial Ave, trying to get back to my car.
Yeah.
Um, it was just incredible. Fire engines, just I was impressed too by the number of live music acts that were willing to get on a flatbed truck and play like rock
Yeah.
rock music. There was off what I think it's called. Oh, I'm gonna get it wrong, and it's not gonna be good. But off of the bus, there was it's a kid group,
Oh, nice.
and I think they won one of the prizes as well as best band. I don't have the list in front of me, but it's a young rock band. So I'm really impressed by the musical talent and the artistic talent. The Girl Scouts troop won for their Gloucester heritage uh, with the greasy pole.
Oh, cool.
So the kid and I actually ran into them before the parade, and I got a picture of them fortuitously, and so we featured them in the paper as well. And
Nice.
if you want to go on our website, there's a great I want to put in a plug for Jamie Campos, who's our photographer for our papers, and put in a huge slideshow. I mean, if you really want to see the parade, but I've never seen anything like it. Thousands of people, lots of candy being thrown, lots of floats, very impressive, very impressive. A lot of birthday cakes too. There was the themes. So it was like at least three, I think it was at least three life-size dories in this thing.
Wow.
And then Gloucester birthday cakes because we're celebrating the 400th. Mayor Verda had his campaign birthday cake. It was really well done.
He wasn't playing the guitar. He wasn't one of the bands.
He wasn't one of the bands. He was just walking.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Also, Mary Ellen Rose is also walking too. She had some floats as well.
Yeah.
Mayoral, so we got a little bit of politics in there. A lot of politics in this. Jeff Worthley I think he had like a brass band of fishermen.
Wow.
So it was pretty cool. Val Gilman marched with a banner that on one side said, vote for me or whatever, Gilman, for future Gloss or whatever. And then on the reverse was like, we're coming back live at the Kairos.
Oh,
She announced, she wanted to announce that the city council finally, after like 3 years, is coming back live with a hybrid meeting. The city hall had a fire. They've been trying to get this hybrid technological upgrade to the Kairos auditorium in place for, I don't know, as long as I've been in Gloucester.
yeah. Right.
And so that they're coming back on September 12th. So I was really impressed. Birthday cakes, dories, just great. Like a really good natured horribles parade. Everyone was like, wasn't horrible. There wasn't any sort of swipes like some other Beverly Farms. Anyway, bad natured. It was really good. Everyone had a great time. Everyone was like grilling in their yards. We're on Whittemore Street. We go off the street. There was parties everywhere. I probably should have tried to snag a hot dog or a hamburger on my way up to the parade.
I'm sure you could have.
It was incredible. The parade was so long it chased its tail. By the time we were walking back, the last float left.
Yeah.
That parade kid come around. It was incredible.
And you don't have the list of the winners, which were the best floats?
You know what? I do not. I do some Googling.
Yeah. I'll Google that. Yeah. All right, so let's talk
Oh,
about.
but I do want to mention while I'm Googling here that you have to remember that they had canceled the fireworks
Oh, right,
because of the weather.
right.
And so we had the Fishtown Horribles parade on July 3rd, but if you still want to be in the spirit of the 4th of July, this Saturday, July 8th,
Oh,
5:30 concert on Stacy Boulevard, and then fireworks later that evening.
oh, great. That's
So
great.
you know, we're still gonna, you're gonna, I felt a little bad for the organizers. I think it was they had to make a call. You have to make a call. You have to make it early. And the Cape Ann Weather Facebook page was saying that who knows, there might have been a possibility of lightning. Who knows?
Yeah.
Anyway, he's actually really accurate. That guy who
Oh,
does
he's
it.
good. Yeah.
He's
Right.
very good. But whatever it is that they just can't take the chance. But hey, we got another bite at the apple.
Right.
So live music at 5:30 on Stacy Boulevard near the Cut, and 9:30 fireworks show.
All right.
1,600 shells and 400 salutes. So
Shells? What does that mean?
I don't know, but a lot, right?
That's shells for fireworks.
Keep your pet indoors and give it doggy medication, because it's
Yeah,
gonna be
that seems like it's not 1,600. Like,
400 salutes.
wow, nice.
So it's good. That should be a really good time. And then also in town is the Maritime Rendezvous,
Oh, yeah.
the international dory races too. You can go to our website and see all that stuff. But that's just in the spirit of the 5th. I think a lot of people are off this week.
Mhm.
So so the schooners are coming in a little early this year. I think the Columbia is coming up,
Mhm.
and Maritime Gloucester, there'll be deck tours. All that's on Maritime Gloucester's website. Then the 71st, I think, International Dory Race between Canada and America. That's also happening as well.
This
So
weekend.
this weekend. Yeah.
Great. I love those dory races.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible because it really gets back to our fishing heritage, because that's how they fished in dories, and they're not high tech. It's not like these sculler, it's pretty incredible to row those,
Yeah.
to see them rowing those things.
And they go around Cape Ann to see them, out there doing that. It's
Amazing.
And then the whole relationship with, wait, is it Nova Scotia? It's Nova Scotia, right? Halifax?
Yeah, Lunenburg, Nova Scotia.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And that great rivalry, fishing rivalry. But you imagine like this, that's how you fish. You got in a dory boat out in the middle of the ocean, and then
Yeah.
hope the schooner would come back and pick you up, right?
Exactly. All right. Well, tell us, speaking of schooners, no, Edward Hopper did not paint schooners. He painted homes,
He
really.
painted exactly the opposite. Like, this guy came to Gloucester. There was a great photo in Cape Ann Museum by Meyerowitz of everybody painting everything in Gloucester. The artist, like 100 years ago, if you walked around Gloucester, there'd be easels set up everywhere. And they'd be painting the ships, and they'd be painting the waterfront. And what does Edward Hopper do? He walks around and paints Portuguese Hill, the Italian section. Just found, like, he just found home. His first painting where he broke through as a painter at age 41 years old. It's called the Mansard Roof. And it's this Victorian home on Rocky Neck, which is still there.
Mhm.
And Victorian homes were not in fashion in the 1920s. There was a big turn away from anything Victorian in those days. And modernism or the classical colonial era was kind of in fashion. So everyone was like looking at this guy and saying, wow, you're painting like really ugly buildings, but your paintings are amazing. And a watercolor called the Mansard Roof of that house on Rocky Neck was his first sale of a painting in 10 years. He was more known for his illustration than etchings. And he sort of mastered watercolor. His girlfriend, Jo Nivison, suggested that perhaps he should paint watercolor. He doesn't have to lug this big paint box around. And he sold this painting to the Brooklyn Museum.
Ethan, in your reporting on the Mansard Roof, is there any information from the current owners of that structure? Were you able to talk to them, or?
I just drove by, but I didn't. Yeah, I didn't want to bother them. I was debating whether, I just, they probably private people. It's a private house. So, but the interesting thing is Hopper didn't, it's right on Rocky Neck. So there's probably a gorgeous view of the harbor. He turned around and painted the house.
I know. Isn't that amazing?
The awnings and stuff, and very little bit of water shows up in his watercolors in Gloucester. It's the houses, it's the outhouses, it's the shacks, it's just the regular houses, and I think it's just loved the light, and he just loved the way the light came off the city's houses, and became a very famous painter.
So
From Gloucester, it was not his painting career was pretty much over before he came to Gloucester.
Right. In New York. So he was
in New York, and this was like his second trip to Gloucester. He came with his girlfriend. And so he was not painting. And then he became famous for his watercolors, and that really revived his career. He's one of the most famous American painters of the 20th century. And if you want to catch more of Edward Hopper's paintings in Gloucester, July 22nd, the Hopper exhibit opens. I got a nice little preview. I didn't see the paintings, but I saw where they're going on the wall on the third floor of the Cape Ann Museum. And I think it's going to be spectacular. It's probably one of the first times all these paintings have kind of been together in an exhibition about Gloucester. It's about Cape Ann. This is a really spectacular exhibit, I think. And that'll be on July 22nd at the Cape Ann Museum.
And you did a story on a special arrival at the Cape Ann Museum.
Yeah, that's when they were unboxing the mansard roof. The director, Oliver Barker, said, "Hey, do you want to see this painting?" It's a very famous Hopper painting. It's the first one that gave him his start, because he sold it in a show to the Brooklyn Museum for about $100, which in those days was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And that sale gave him, so he came back. He came back 4 more times over in the 1920s, and his work is he just captured light just so brilliantly in watercolor, just very hard. It runs all over it's a medium that runs all over the place. So
I'm going to put a little plug in for The Color of Light, because I did a story on an artist named Frank Knox Morton Wren, Rehn.
Yes.
And Wren's son became the dealer for Edward Hopper, and they lived in Magnolia, or they summered in Magnolia. And his father, Frank Knox Morton Wren, who was the painter, had bought a house in Magnolia, and that house is still there. And there's a little sign on it that says this house was owned by Frank Knox Morton Wren. And inside is a painting by Wren. And when that house is sold, the painting has to stay with it. So Wren's son became the dealer for Hopper. So it's all in the family.
Yeah, and the interesting thing that I also read, because I saw the exhibit in 2007, the Hopper exhibit in the MFA, and I had the book, so I cribbed. This is all coming from that. He didn't come in, and he wasn't with Teresa Bernstein, right? He wasn't. It may have gone there, but there was no really very little mention of him. I mean, he became the most famous painter coming out of Gloucester, and he wasn't sort of known at the beginning. Now the person who did is the guest curator. Her name's going to escape me right now. Elliot is her first name. Who contributed to the first Hopper show, was talking about how she used the Gloucester Times to see how famous Hopper. They started to mention him after, later, but it was great that our newspaper played a little bit of part in the Cape Ann Museum's exhibit to sort of research Hopper in those days. Where is you going to find information about it? She read a lot, in those summers that he was here to research him. So.
All right. Well, it's nice to see you guys. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks because I was on vacation, but you're working hard again, and it's great to see you.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you, Heather.
So much.
All right. So we'll talk next week.
All right.
Okay,
Take care.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.